Well, hello, I'm Josh, and I'm back once again with another film to tell you about. A Christmas movie, in fact. Now, today I'm talking to you about Ernst Lubitsch's 1940 classic, The Shop Around the Corner. The film is set in a small leather goods store in Budapest called Matusek and Company, a shop owned by Hugo Matusek. It follows his top salesman, Alfred Kralik, who has been working for Mr. Matusek for, I believe, about 9 years. And he has been writing these pen pal letters to someone, and he ends up falling in love with this person that he does not actually know. And so Matusek hires a new sales lady, Clara Novak, and she ends up annoying Kralik. To start off, she gets Mr. Matusek to buy a whole bunch of cigarette boxes that play Ultrachonia, which Kralik hates. And throughout the film, they continue to get into more and more arguments. And so guess who turns out to be the one that he's been writing all these letters to? Yep, Miss Novak. So this story is one that by this point we've probably all heard in some shape or form. It's become kind of a staple in romantic comedies. This one has been remade several times in the past. Most famously, I'd have to say would be You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And that film kind of updates it to more the internet world, changing out the letters for emails. And really, this film is an adaptation of a Hungarian play called Parfumery, which was written by Miklos Laszlo. So I guess you could say that You've Got Mail is actually an update of the play. But despite its appearance, The Shop Around the Corner is so much more than just a nice, simple romantic comedy. And as I mentioned before, this film is directed by Ernst Lubitsch. Now, most people who are not into watching classic films may very well not know who Ernst Lubitsch is. And if you don't know, Ernst Lubitsch was a very famous classic Hollywood director. The famous director Jean Renoir stated that Ernst Lubitsch actually invented the modern Hollywood. Lubitsch grew up in Germany, but was actually brought over to America by Charlie Chaplin, I believe. He quickly became one of the funniest and really best directors in Hollywood. Billy Wilder, who's famous for some classic comedies like The Apartment, Some Like It Hot, The 7-Year Itch, famously had this plaque that he would hang on his wall, which read, "How would Lubitsch do it?" And he and his writing partner would look to that every time they would get stuck on some sort of plot element that they were struggling with in their scripts. And this was because Lubitsch was very famous for coming up with very original ideas and overall just very creative ways of showing things. And of course, he also had what has been classified as the Lubitsch touch, which is actually pretty hard to pin down exactly what it is. Depending on where you go, you'll get a lot of different answers of what it is exactly. I believe it's essentially just an unclassifiable aspect of his films that is kind of hard to pinpoint but make it uniquely his. But yeah, it's kind of hard to give a specific answer. I'm not completely sure. There's a clip online of Billy Wilder who explains the Lubitsch touch a bit better than I can. It's a bit too long to show here without just basically reposting their entire video, so instead I'm going to put a link below that you can check out if you're interested. But anyways, Lubitsch made some absolute classics. I think his most famous is probably To Be or Not to Be, but he also made Trouble in Paradise, Designed for Living, Heaven Can Wait, tons of great movies that you may or may not have heard of. But Ernst Lubitsch reportedly considered The Shop Around the Corner to be his finest work. I'm sure part of this has to do with just how connected he felt to the story. His father, Simon Lubitsch, was a tailor, so he actually grew up around these kind of shops that the film is depicting. So I'm sure it had a lot of meaning for him. And also on top of that, it's just a really great movie. Throughout the film, you get to know all the workers in the shops, all their personalities. Several of the characters have their own running jokes.
All I want is your honest opinion. I want your opinion, your honest opinion. Now, don't let me influence you. I just want your opinion.
And you also get to see a lot of that Lubitsch touch I was telling you about. One of my favorite shots in the film is pretty early on when Mr. Matusek is talking on the phone, and as the call gets more private, he shrinks behind the counter until he disappears completely behind the cash register. All the while, his voice is getting softer and softer as well. Then, without warning, he shouts angrily at the phone. He jumps up and slams the phone back down on the receiver. Another great shot opens in the mailroom as it slowly pushes in until we are practically inside an empty mail slot. The lock twists and we see Clara's hand reach in to find nothing. Then we see her sad eyes peek through to confirm that no letter has come. What's interesting to me about both these scenes is that they're very visual, especially the second one, which is pretty much completely silent. But even the first one, much of the humor is conveyed through the framing and the acting, and then the sound adds a whole new layer to it. Lubitsch began directing during the silent era, and so I think he understood the power and impact that visuals had. Another great aspect of this film is, of course, the actors. Now, this film has some of the great actors of classic Hollywood. I mean, you've got Jimmy Stewart. He definitely comes to mind for a lot of people around Christmas time. And Margaret Sullivan, another classic film star. And a fun fact, both Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan worked in the same theater group before they even went to Hollywood. And Lubitsch was so intent on having them as the film leads that he actually postponed the filming of this movie a whole nother year. And while he was waiting for that, he ended up making another classic called Ninotchka with Greta Garbo. Another face you might recognize is Mr. Matuszek himself, who's played by Frank Morgan. Most people will recognize him as none other than the Wizard of Oz, and he does not disappoint in this film. If you look it up, he also does kind of a funny narration of the film's trailer. He acts kind of as a tour guide to the shop as he talks about the film while in character. You don't really see trailers like this anymore, so it's pretty fun to watch. Especially that little cameo by Ernst Lubitsch himself at the end.
The man who gave you a Garbo in Ninotchka who made you laugh, and who now gives you a Morgan who makes you laugh, I hope.
So there you go, that was The Shop Around the Corner. If you'd like to watch it, it's available online from most streaming sites as a rent-or-buy option. Physically, it can be a bit more difficult, especially if you're just looking for the film by itself. The standalone DVD must be out of print or something, because I remember when I was looking for it a few years ago, I remember it was very hard to find. I remember I was looking all over for a copy that was not over $40. Now, one version, which I thought was kind of interesting, had the text above it which read, "Original Your Got Mail." So as you can see, I settled for this silver screen icon holiday 4-pack. And, you know, it's alright. I mean, as you can see, I kind of enjoy collecting movies. So I was not a huge fan of buying these kind of 4-packs. They're good if you just want to watch the movie, but they don't really have much else to them. I mean, with this, there are no bonus features. It's basically movie 1, movie 2, and that's it. You can put subtitles, I guess, if you want. But on the bright side, all of these movies listed here are really good. So I guess this isn't really too bad of an option after all. So I looked the Shop Around the Corner up to see if any of the prices had gone down for the DVDs. If you remember, they were like $40 plus when I first went to look for this. And I noticed that the 22nd of December of this year, 2020, Warner Brothers is actually releasing a Blu-ray version of the Shop Around the Corner through their Warner Archive series. So that's pretty exciting, and I thought pretty timely considering I did not know that before I decided to make this video. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I still don't know about the bonus features or anything, but I mean, Blu-ray, that's definitely gonna look better than this. And I think it's also good to know that just such a great film is getting a really good release. It's not just left to be in these kind of 4-packs. You can get a nicer version as well if you want to. So now we have come to this week's comment question. And I'm wondering, what is your favorite Jimmy Stewart film? He was one of the greatest film actors ever, working quite frequently with some big-name directors like Alfred Hitchcock and Frank Capra. And on top of that, Jimmy Stewart's a name that's still pretty familiar with people, despite the height of his career being around 60 years ago. So yeah, put your favorite Jimmy Stewart films in the comment section below and start discussing. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to see more. Have a great rest of your day and remember to keep watching movies. Alright, I'll see you next week.
Pardon me, ladies. I can't see very well without my glasses. Could you tell me the price on that briefcase?
$24.50.
$24.50? My, what values you get here, eh? I wonder how Matuszek and Company can do it.
Well, if you don't know Mr. Matuszek, who should?